to the Honourable Member for Linlithgow and East Falkirk for sponsoring this hugely important debate, and to Peter Packham for calling for the petition and organising this across the country. Over 180,000 people, Chair, have signed this petition now, including 439 in my constituency, and the numbers are rising all the time. It's a clear indication that the public's patience with this government's botched Brexit deal has evaporated, and they want answers. An online poll of 1,340 voters by Omnisis last week showed that 59% thought that an inquiry should probably or definitely be launched, with just 25% against. And we know why. It's because the government are not giving answers to the questions. It shouldn't need to take an inquiry to get these answers. Week in and week out, Labour has been raising the issues about the impact of Brexit. And I understand the frustration of the public and why an inquiry is being called for. An inquiry would be hugely expensive and very delayed. It would take a long time, but people want these answers now so that we can mitigate against the damage being caused by Brexit. Or, as the Honourable Member pointed out, if it's so wonderful, if there's a Brexit dividend and we're seeing all the success, we would love to know what that is. So whatever you think about Brexit, whether you support it or not, whether you think it's been good for the country or not, whether there's been a Brexit dividend that maybe will come in time but just not yet, everyone should support an assessment of the outcomes so far. It's been such a defining political moment of our time that we do need to know answers about what has been the result, and very importantly, to mitigate against any damage that is being caused. I actually called for a debate on this back in December 2021. I said, can we have a debate on the impact of Brexit and a region-by-region report? Now, the leader of the House, the then leader of the House, gave me this response. We can start prayers every morning with a celebration of Brexit. We should have the Brexit prayer and perhaps the Brexit song, because it's been a triumph for this nation and reassert its freedom. I'm not giving a very good interpretation of the then leader of the House's accent in saying this, but he said, I believe we have now happy fish, and that there's general celebrating and rejoicing across the country. This is the level of delusion, flippancy, not taking this issue seriously, that is very, very frustrating for people across this country, and why they have signed this petition in such large numbers. This cannot be the last word, just writing it off, just saying it's a success, without actually giving evidence for that. So we need to know the impact because of the enormous political cost of this debate to our country. Because big promises were made to voters before the referendum. Are those promises being delivered? We need to disentangle the impact of Brexit and COVID and the energy crisis and the cost of living crisis and Ukraine, so that it cannot be just written off that any problems that we're facing as a country are because of Ukraine and the cost of living crisis and COVID, rather than finding out what is the impact of the cost of Brexit. And because we need to know who is being impacted, region, by age, by sector. There are so many different places within our country that are impacted. It's about environmental standards, food standards, financial services, school trips, agriculture, fishing, the construction industry, creative industries and musicians, about the impact on the workforce, especially the NHS and health services, about the impact on education, educational opportunities, on scientific research, on school trips. It's about security and the loss of businesses. All of these things are never being brought together by the government, so we cannot hear the cumulative impact on all these areas. Many different think tanks and researchers are giving us the costs of Brexit, but again, we're not hearing those definitive answers, although Labour are asking for them again and again. Bloomberg says it costs the UK economy $100 billion a year. The IMF forecast will be the only leading economy to shrink. The Office for the Budget Responsibility conclude that Brexit will reduce long-run productivity by 4%. The Centre for European Reform said that by the end of last year, the economy was 5%, or £31 billion smaller than if we'd stayed in the EU. Surely, with these figures being quoted, we need to have a better, clearer, independent assessment of the facts. Red tape being faced by businesses is at a record high. Customs export declarations that businesses must fill in when moving goods from the UK more than tripled after the UK left the single market and the customs union, while import declarations have increased by 50% during this time. I've had several businesses in my constituency in Putney report exactly this, and we've lost 300 businesses in Putney, Roehampton and Southfields since 2021. I would like to know why this is and what part of this has been the impact of Brexit and what can be addressed, course-corrected right now to stop this damage. The music industry has been mentioned in this debate already. The failure to secure ease of access for touring bands across the EU is embarrassing and ludicrous, and surely this can be changed. And school trips from the European Union and to the European Union by schools have been reduced. The School Travel Forum reported a reduction from 13,000 overseas trips in 2019 to just 2,500 in the first 8 months of last year. Obviously, part of that is COVID, but a huge part of that is the change in passport requirements and increasing costs for parents to have a visa that's increased the administrative burden, having that impact on school trips. And that can also be changed right now. Then there's the impact on the workforce. Many EU citizens who've left were key workers, the backbone of our public services. All working people should and deserve to know the impact on our healthcare facilities. Every healthcare facility I visit tell me that there's a clear impact of Brexit on recruitment and the delivery of healthcare. Labour keeps asking, keeps exposing the impact on working people, and the government must answer these questions. So to conclude, when the Minister comes to respond, I hope that he shows more humility than the former Leader of the House, who I quoted at the beginning of my speech. The government cannot run from scrutiny on Brexit forever. The public deserve answers. They deserve honest reflection, hard facts and figures, and a plan for putting right some of the worst damage of Brexit. And I hope to hear that from the Minister later. Thank you.
Thank you.